Okay, so we are just about to kick it off. We've got Jonathan Wolf, and he's going to be he's joining us today along with Pat Kennefic, and we're going to be talking about a really important topic. And I'm going to bring that up on the screen for you now. And I'm on the wrong slide. So we do want you to stay with us to the end, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And of course, my software decides to freeze up on me on the wrong slide, of course, as Murphy's Law would have it. Here we go. Now we'll get this thing happening correctly. No webinar is right without a few glitches at the beginning. And so if I could actually just get a confirmation that everyone's hearing me okay, and if you could tell us who you are, where you're from, where are you joining us from today, and we'd love to get a sense as to the audience today. So who's with us? There's a chat box. There's a chat box on the right side. Awesome, Bill. Thanks. And Bill, where are you joining us today? Where are you from? And anybody else, please let us know. Tell us where you're joining us from today. Cleveland. Awesome. Very cool. Lanny, we got Lanny from Hollis. Also, two people from Cleveland, from the same place. Great. And we've got Limmy Flowers joining us from Kingston, Montessori, Clinton. Awesome. And somebody from North Vancouver, from Costo, our great customers from Costo. And I'm just taking a second here to queue up the presentation. I apologize for the delay. Simi is from North Carolina, of course. Swan from Boston. Awesome. Okay, so we've got a lot of great folks joining us today, and we're going to kick off this session. I'm very, very excited to have Jonathan Wolf joining us. We'll introduce him in a few minutes. Of course, he needs no introduction. And we also have Pat Kennefic, who's the Director of Support for Hubbly, joining us today as well. So without further ado, I'm going to start this presentation, and we'll have some fun. So today, we're talking about the topic of how to use your website to increase enrollment. And I mean, there's obvious need for that. There's so many conversations I have with schools day in and day out that this is such an important element of their day-to-day lives, how to fill up the school to capacity and ideally have a waiting list that remains at the same length. So there's always a queue of interested parents, prospective parents. And so let's get into this. You're in the right place if you wish that if you wish that relying on word of mouth referrals was enough, but you know that it's not, unfortunately. And you're in the right place if you want to fill your school to capacity and have a waiting list that's always filling up, because we all know waiting lists dwindle. They don't stay the same length. People come into your school, people go to other schools, people drop off, and you need to keep that waiting list at a consistent length. And you're in the right place if you'd like to spend more time on higher value tasks like face-to-face conversations with parents and children, rather than trying to learn how to become a marketing guru and trying to figure out how to create an efficient process and ultimately um, you know just give up on it because it's a whole doctorate in and of itself. So I strongly encourage you to stay with us for the full 60 minutes of this presentation, because we're going to review a variety of solutions to the most common challenges of enrollment marketing. And I'm going to be telling you also about a new and very exciting pilot program that we're launching here at Hubley. And we're going to get into that at the end. And I just want to I want to make sure that everyone stays and gets this information because it's really crucial. Also, with us today, as I mentioned, we're honored to be having the amazing Jonathan Wolf. I'd like to introduce him. John, I'll let you introduce yourself. So please join us, and I'll allow you to introduce yourself. I'm actually not hearing Jonathan. Are you, Pat? Are you there? Can you join us and maybe just confirm that you got your audio is working?
I am here.
Okay. So Jonathan, you may be muted or have your mic turned off.
Is that better?
There we go. Now he's here.
Okay. I neglected to turn my microphone on, another practical life stuff I forgot. Thank you, Jono, for inviting me. I don't want to take much of your time or the participants' time, but I'm passionate, as some of you know, about parent-teacher relationships and homeschool partnership. I think it's something we don't get enough of in our Montessori training or thereafter, and I think we are in a time where we have to create a stronger partnership with parents as administrators and teachers. And in researching different technical platforms or technology online platforms, I was really delighted with the various features of a Hubley, because I think it creates a great foundation for teachers getting closer to parents and parents getting closer to teachers, which can only serve children better. So I'm here because, not so much because I have a business relationship with Jonah, which I do, but I really believe that this is a great piece of technology that can move the homeschool partnership forward. Thank you, Jonah.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. And today, as I mentioned, we're going to be really digging into that kind of parent engagement that happens from the point of them learning about your school and how to use tools, website tools, and other types of tools to start creating that relationship with the parents and engaging them and helping you to set those new families up for the best result and the best relationship that should last throughout the entire scope of your program. So let's do a quick poll. I want to hear from the audience today. What are you currently doing to grow your enrollment? Please just use the chat box on the right side and let us know. And it takes, and I see we had a few more folks join us. Sally from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and Michelle from Castro Valley, California. Welcome, guys. Please let us know, if you would, what do you currently do to grow your enrollment at your school? A lot of the things I generally hear is, we do word of mouth marketing, or we put print ads in the local magazines, and we, there's certain parent focused magazines in the area. Amy Ann says she uses social media and free advertising like media releases. Well, that's so we would call that, yeah, media releases or PR. That's great. Social media is a tool. Using social media is a certainly there's a learning curve there to learn how to do it. People, let's see, started with social media. Well, we're getting a lot of answers here. I can't even keep up. So, yeah, it's interesting. You know, a lot of folks are, you know, say word of mouth too, and I hear the phrase word of mouth marketing, and I actually think that's kind of funny because word of mouth growth is, you know, getting word of mouth referrals obviously is a great thing, and it's the result of having a great program, but it's actually not a marketing strategy. So word of mouth marketing, I believe it's an oxymoron, and it's something I just find it funny because I hear it all the time. Okay, so I see a lot of the things here: website, Facebook, social media, print ads. Great. So these are all the things that, you know, we hear on a regular basis. So thanks, guys, for sharing that with us. I'm going to jump back into the presentation, but it's good to see that you know, we're talking to folks that are all busy doing. Looks like you're trying certainly to use the right tools, and I also want to say if we you know, look at some important market trends in the, you know, in the private school sector in the U.S. You know, the market size has been growing. You know, but on a per school basis, enrollment rates are actually decreasing. So what we're seeing is that schools are opening up. I mean, the story that this tells is that schools are opening up, right? Especially Montessori's, they're popping up. It's a growing trend, but it's becoming more competitive. Really, it's becoming harder to keep, you know, the enrollment rates up. So the bottom line is, and I don't want to come off as, you know, rude or cynical, but, you know, if Montessori schools can approach running, you know, their marketing a little more like the rest of the business world, you know, businesses that maybe have some more, you know, some dedicated marketing professionals or work with agencies, you know, it might, you know, the impact actually, you know, would be really huge. But you know, and I'd love Jonathan to weigh in on this. But what we're seeing in the market is that a lot of things are being thrown against the wall, but they're not being really laser focused and targeted, and these strategies are really not being used the right way. And they're not really resulting in in a real marketing strategy, which ultimately, until you have an exact number identified of the cost of acquisition of a new enrollment, until you know what that is on a per enrollment basis, and so that you can do planning for the future. And otherwise, what we generally see is people are just kind of throwing money at different strategies, and they don't really know. They're not tracking or even able to measure the performance of those different marketing strategies, like, you know, how much money you're spending on Facebook ads or this or that, and just not really tracking anything. So there isn't really an actual plan in place. The plan is, I don't have a plan and I just do things, kind of. Jonathan, would you say that that's, you know, that relates to what you're seeing out there?
And I think in addition to the growth of schools, even though per school the enrollment is more, you know, is more stressed, let's say, because of the internet and just the general level of education, consumers, prospective parents, are a lot more savvy. And I think the factor that we need to think about, we tend to think of marketing solely as an information model. And I think we need to think about it as a relationship building model. And so any approach, including a technological approach like Hubbly, I think needs to look at, are we both giving information in a format and in a way that people will stay with the information? In other words, not become overloaded, but are we formatting in a way that it feels like a relationship builder, that people want to act and find out about the school? And so I think there's a technical aspect, but there's also a semantic aspect in terms of how we get information across quickly and give a good feeling that cause people to go, gee, I'd like to check into these people at this school.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to summarize it. There's two components here. There's how do you technically engage prospective parents throughout that process of inquiring, finding your school and inquiring, and what if they don't? What if they're on your waiting list, or what if they just inquire and they end up, not enrolling in your school that year? Why aren't you engaging them on a regular basis and developing that relationship with them? It's actually really easy to do if you know how to do it technically. And then, of course, there's great wisdom within the school, in regards to sharing, or knowing the semantics of what to say and how to develop that relationship the right way. So what we're looking at here is the 8 metrics of school business growth. And all we're really talking about today is everything from on the left side. So the retention rate, the traffic. The traffic means the amount of new families learning about your school. And then inquiries is the amount of families that inquire, obviously, and and basically get into the top of the admissions process. And then, and then obviously enrollments as well. These are all different what we call conversion points, right? And then of course there's things like children per family, and the second half, the right half of this, is kind of working on the internal business metrics with your enrolled families. But everything on the left side is the top to the middle of the funnel, and every single business that exists live or die by their performance in these 8 metrics. And obviously, I've changed the labels of these from the standard MBA labels that you learn when you do an MBA to be more sort of relevant to Montessori schools. But these are business truisms that exist in every single business that exists in the world. You can't get away from them. And if you understand how to target each one of these different measurements and work on them individually, that's how you're really working on the business side of the school. And of course, there's no school business. There's no Montessori school without the amazing people that run it, and the main point being children in your programs going through the Montessori method, of course. But what we're really talking about is everything around the classroom that people that run a school have to manage. And when I say have to manage, you're managing them one way or the other. You're either managing them actively and proactively, or you're kind of letting them manage you, so to speak, and being a victim to them if you're not, in control of them. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very analogous in a Montessori classroom to the concept of a prepared environment. We don't let children just run around and play with any toy they want to take off the shelf. We very judiciously design an educational environment to focus children's attention and awareness on the concepts and the skills we want them to focus on. So what Jono is saying here is creating a promotional and communication environment it's very conscious, it's very intentional to create a certain response. In this case, interest and a call to action. I have to go down to that Montessori school to see what's going on. So it's a very well thought out, intentional system. It's not just throwing seeds out and hoping that the plants will pop up.
Man, that's what I love about doing webinars with you, John. Your analogies are always so appropriate. So I'm actually going to skip through a couple of things here because it really does. Sorry about all these points, but we're just going to jump through this stuff because it's not necessarily relevant to the conversation today. I will. There we go. So this is what we want to talk about. So, oops, and I clicked it too many times. Now I'm catching up. All right. So the Montessori, school today, obviously, I rarely hear a Montessori school that doesn't want to, or doesn't need to increase their enrollment numbers, or at least want to increase the number of inquiries, that are actually coming into the school. So, especially, and maybe even more importantly, inquiries of parents that are looking for a Montessori school rather than parents who are kind of just looking for anything. And I'm sure, you all know that parents that are more in line with the Montessori values are more likely to stay, and the ones that aren't are more likely to leave after a year and maybe take a few families with them when they go and kind of cause problems the whole year. And the best way to feel confident, in directing those, quote unquote, wrong or less ideal families to look for a different school is to have enough inquiries, right? So you don't feel like your back is up against the wall. So one of the best ways to engage a prospective parents is using tools that exist in your site. One of them is a blog, right? So a blog is a great place to answer a lot of common questions. And so if you notice that a few parents are asking the same questions about the school or bus routes or extracurriculars, you want to make sure that those FAQs, frequently asked questions, are easily accessible on your website as well. But in regards to blogs more specifically, and I really want to, and I really believe every school should be using a blog. It is so key, not just to getting parents into the top of the funnel. It's also a great way to engage parents when they're in the middle of the funnel, meaning when they're going through the admissions process or on your waiting list, and also to engage your existing enrolled parents in so many ways. But one of the best ways is to give your parents, whether they're coming into the school through the admissions process or whether they're already enrolled for a few years, give them content that they see as valuable and utility-based and useful and entertaining. They will share that content with their friends. And that is a great way to get new referrals coming in. Yes, John?
I wanted to reinforce something that you said about FAQs. It's what I call the psychological principle in our communication with both prospective parents and enrolled parents of, this is very peace education oriented statement, but it's like beating them to the punch. If you tend to see parents or hear parents asking similar questions or expressing similar concerns, then make sure you address that proactively in an FAQ on your website or in a blog, because if you address it with the tone of, now many parents are concerned about the 3-year age cycle. I'm just making this up. Mm-hmm. You've sort of beaten them to the psychological punch. If they are already into, well, I don't understand why 3-year-olds are with 5-year-olds, I'm using this as an analogy, they're already concerned. You've already upped their negative emotions. Whereas if you track the general pattern of concerns and get them into the FAQs, you've sort of said, we know you're thinking about this and we want to answer this question before you get amped out about it. So I really support the idea of FAQs based on what you're hearing in the patterns of parents' concerns and questions.
Yeah, that's a great example. And there's so many other examples. And they'll differ from school to school and neighborhood to neighborhood. But the one that you gave is probably pretty universal, of course. And I think that, we'll talk about some other ways to share those common questions and a way to get ahead of, what may become like a bit of a cognitive dissonance with certain parents at certain stages of the enrollment process. And obviously everyone that's running a school, you hear the same things all the time, probably. You've probably been doing this for years. You could probably write a book about, what's going on in the head of a parent when they come into the school. The question is, how do you, on a technical level, take that information and deliver it the right way so that, you can have a more efficient, process. So one thing I want to say about blogs, just on a tactical level, is whether you're just starting a blog or maybe you're kind of planning on dusting off the cobwebs of one that maybe went inactive. One of the most important elements is to be consistent with your blogging. When people are engaging a website, no matter what it is, trust is one of the most important feelings that they need to have. And trust is really built with consistency. So it doesn't necessarily mean you need to post every week or anything. Rather, you need to create a posting schedule and just make sure you stick to it. So this could be once a month even. So if you could just imagine, if you're a parent going to look at a school and you found their blog and you're looking at their blog and you see the post dates and they're, one's 1 month and another one is 3 months later, and then there's another one the next week. It looks sporadic. And then you're actually portraying that sporadic image. And that's something that you really want to stay away from.
There's a pretty solid advertising research that it's not the big one-page ad in a magazine or a newspaper that really captures people's attention or calls them to action. It's the much smaller ad that keeps appearing every day, every week in the magazine or newspaper. It's that consistency and repetition. Eventually, the human brain, in this case, the parent, goes, I keep on seeing that, or I keep on reading this blog and this interesting information. It is the consistency and the repetition that causes name recognition of a Montessori school.
Absolutely. And so here's an action tip. So I really jot this down. I really think if you can, a great way to work with the staff at the school is to work with your teachers and your team, carve out a schedule, and the best way to do this is just to assign it to a different staff member, each week, posting something. So it's manageable. It's a little job to do for everybody rather than a big job for one person, and that way, maybe you set up a couple of rules for the type of content that it has to be, a couple of just requirements, but let your teachers and your staff have incredible knowledge and education to share with parents. Right?
I would make it more than just a couple. I think giving teachers the freedom to, you can tell a wonderful story about what happened with a child in your classroom and how this is a Montessori principle. You can talk about Montessori material. You can talk about redirecting behavior. Give the teachers a little menu of things that will interest them and let them pick and choose. And then teachers will be motivated to share what is foremost in their hearts and minds about their classroom and about Montessori.
Yeah, you get them started in the right direction. It's a lot easier to be creative that way, for sure. That's a great point, John. And you also want to make sure you're writing about relevant topics that parents want to read about. You should be writing about, you should define the people that you're writing for, and make sure that you're writing for them, not for you, and not for school. Not even necessarily about selling Montessori. I think if you're just communicating with them, you want them to be engaging you beyond simply not simply, but beyond the Montessori method. I think if your blog is kind of got that value added to it, it should be something that you should kind of think about your blog articles or your newsletters as something that would be worth paying for otherwise, right? So you want to make sure that your prospective parents can really benefit from the content, whether they enroll at your school or not, right? This isn't about selling them on anything. This is just about giving. This is called permission marketing, where you just give and give and give, so that at some point down the road, you might ask for something. Ask them to come in and take a step towards enrolling or something. But you want to gain trust and you want to position yourselves as experts. So when they have to decide where to place their child, they'll be more likely to go with the school that they already see as a source of education for their family. So if you're giving parents helpful topics like how to get your kids to eat healthy, or top 3 strategies for handling sibling fights, things like that I could, I've got 2 toddlers, And, if I saw an article on potty training, I'd read it and I'd probably share with a whole bunch of my friends, right? And I would really, that would help me position you, if you're a school in my neighborhood and I got that from you, I would really see that school in a different light, and that's the type of thing.
Jonah, this is the idea of following the child as applied to following the parent. Those of you who are listening, you know what age groups you serve, whether it's infant, toddler, children's house, early childhood, elementary, secondary, and you know those parents, each of those sets of parents, just like the characteristics of their children, they have various characteristics and needs and tendencies for that age group child. So before we start talking about the Montessori curriculum, let's help them with their parenting. Let's help them raise a healthier, happier child. And when you form your blogs around what in fact is interesting to that age group parents or parents of that age group children, now you've really caught their attention. It's got to be daily, practical, experiential stuff. And then eventually you can get into the Montessori philosophy and curriculum, but it's got to be more experiential than informational.
Beautiful. So here's another tip. Work with your team and brainstorm a few possible topics for your blog. And, be sure to just keep one master list of ideas. So, everyone's on the same page. And John, this kind of talks to your suggestion before on my last action tip. It's almost like you read this ahead of time, but folks, he didn't. Just want you to know that. He's that good. You can ask each teacher to come up with, one topic, and you'll have the next, few months planned out in no time. So this is just, again, for work with your team, to brainstorm this stuff and come up with it. It shouldn't have to be, let's be honest. You're running a Montessori school, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to come up with a roadmap for our blog. Come on. Like, really? Like, you've got so many other fires to put out, right? It's so much easier. I mean, this doesn't speak to everybody. I know I like to be collaborative and work with a team and brainstorm with people. I find that obviously, everyone has better ideas than I do. So, it's a smart move. So, and it's a lot more fun, and it takes the stress off of it. So I really think it's, working collaboratively with your team is the way to go.
To link the last 2 points that you were making, simply asking teachers at different program levels. So, your parents, what are their concerns? What are their interests? What are their hot issues? Getting teachers to think about the needs of the parents, whether it's things they observe parents do with their children or things they say to their children or things that the parents say to the teachers. It's easy to build these blogs around parents' needs and tendencies. Simply get teachers talking about it, and then out of that could be, well, gee, Jono, since you've noticed that about the parents in the toddler program, would you do a little thing about potty training or redirecting behavior, because you see they really struggle with separation issues. And so the interest level on the teachers can be stimulated by simply asking them, what are you observing in parents and what would be of use to them?
Yeah, and you're right. And I think this does have added value just to the collaboration amongst the staff, and you're working on a really creative project together, and it's also honing, when you write things out, it hones your own understanding, right? And it's just something that writing is a good thing for everybody to do. It's just a good practice, and it's for any organization, having your team writing about what the types, things that are relevant to what you provide as a service, to your families is only going to improve the program and the outcome, and it helps with marketing. So it's a win-win.
I have one other quick thing. I know you need to move on, but Dr. Paul Epstein, wonderful Montessorian, used to do this thing with his staff to generate simply awareness of the essence of Montessori to eventually be shared with parents. He called them Montessori moments, and simply inviting staff to recall a Montessori moment with a child, or a child and a teacher, a child and a parent, that either is incredibly insightful, like I've never seen a child do that, or incredibly funny, or incredibly moving, really touches the heart. And again, getting teachers thinking about, what did you see children do that just like really nailed the essence of our school and the essence of Montessori, and begin to share those stories with parents, maybe with a little trailer about what the philosophy is after the story. This shows you how independent children can be. It's a powerful way of getting teachers thinking and writing about these things that can then be shared in a blog, which really captures the imagination and the attention of parents. They love the stories about children.
Yeah, man, Paul Epstein, that guy's awesome.
He is.
I always love catching him at conferences and chatting for a bit. And here is like, man, we could talk about this slide for hours. So we're going to have to be really careful here. But this is the ultimate way to really sort of. This is. I'm going to talk about this, but this is like kind of your entire admissions funnel here. But if you really want to not just simplify your life, but also this is how we really identify and help parents themselves identify if they're in the right place. So let's just talk about this. This is like an onboarding process. This is something that Hubly builds inside of our systems for our customers. So this is what we call a laneway diagram. So the parents are on the left side, and the hub and the school admin is on the right side. And this is just an example of a school's admissions process. Everyone's a little different, and we actually build these customs for everybody. But let's just say at the top of the funnel, you're running Facebook ads, right? Which you definitely should be doing. I can't stress enough how smart of a move it is to invest in Facebook ads, as long as they're being managed properly, because it is by far the most productive and efficient, cheapest way to get the best results in enrollment growth. And on top of that, so at the very top of the funnel too, you should have web pages that are optimized for search engines. So that's what we call top of the funnel, right? Ads and search traffic. And then they come into a web page, right, where, which is what we would call a landing page, which is a dedicated page that is connected to these campaigns and needs to, more than anything, have one major goal for that prospective parent to inquire, fill out a form basically. And then the next thing, ideally you would have, you would be notified by the system letting you know. Now here's the big deal. The next step, and this is something Hubly does, there are other systems that do this too, but the bottom line is you want to create what's called a drip email sequence, because at this stage of the process, and also at later stages of the process, but as an example here, parents that are just inquiring, maybe they haven't even come into a tour yet or an open house, this is a great time to be sending them a series of engagement points. And each one should be different, but each one should help the parent understand what's special about your school and maybe give them, we've got some great ideas that we're working on actually with Tim Selden for, creating some template email sequences with the Montessori Foundation, where one email has a video, and then another email has a link to a survey, like, is Montessori right for me, type of thing, right? Things that are essentially going to further engage the right parents, and also help the ones that are really looking for something different recognize that this isn't the right thing for me, because you certainly are too busy to be filling up your calendar with tours with families that are not the right fit. You should be, protecting your schedule and protecting your time, and as much as possible, just investing it into those families that are going to be the ones that stick with you from the beginning to the end of your program. And so each one of those emails can also run automatically. You can set it up to run automatically, and each one of them can also have one big call to action, which drives the parent to go book a tour. In Hubly's case, we have an automated, tour booking system, so you don't have to spend the time to like call them and follow up and like send them a reminder and do all that stuff manually, which is the type of thing we see at schools happening a lot. I mean, this type of automation is great for a number of things, number of reasons. Number one is because it takes away a lot of the busy work. It also doesn't allow you to forget anything because, you know, computers don't forget. You know, when something's supposed to happen, it happens. So parents get the email they're supposed to get, and they get the reminder that they're supposed to get, and staff even get alerted when they need to do something, which is also helpful.
No,
And you also, yeah.
I want to just clarify something about the drip system. This is not only little drips of promotion. You know, we also do this at our school. We can also help you. It's not just repeated sales pitch. It's not like a car salesman coming over to you going, and by the way, this car is blue. And by the way, this car has disc brakes, et cetera, et cetera. If in the initial contact, you can have them share on the landing page or as a link from the landing page some information. You can then respond with an email about that particular thing. I'll give you a quick example of what Jonah was talking about. Tim Selden and I have a little thing set up at the Montessori Foundation where people who are starting schools contact the Montessori Foundation and fill out a little survey about the nature of their plans. They then get a series of emails from us or from the foundation about, we've heard that you're looking for a facility. We've got some ideas for you. Or we know that you're looking for financing or looking for teachers. And so the follow-up drip emails are not just pitches for the school services. They can actually be somewhat tailored to the information that's been taken in. So the feeling on the part of the parent is, wow, I've been heard and you're responding to my need. Very few school marketing programs do that. It's kind of like, again, following the parent or the family and individualizing the approach. There's nothing more powerful than somebody looking at your school going, wow, you're actually responding to something that I've shared with you. Very powerful.
Yeah. So what you're so that's something that we do suggest schools do, like in that initial inquiry form, you know, give some information that can allow you to custom tailor different series of different emails to the right parent, maybe by the program they're looking at, the age level of the child, or maybe a certain level of experience or inexperience with the Montessori method. You know, maybe if somebody's already had a child in a Montessori school, you can send them different information that's much more, you know, maybe Montessori, you know, jargony, you know, because that person's is clearly looking for that, right? So
yeah. All that could be automated, correct, Jonah? In other words, you don't have to sort through emails.
That's the whole point, is that you can have this really, really, I don't want to say complex. You can have like a very efficient marketing system that you don't even have to do. You don't have to run, and you just look to see how it's doing and who's at what stage. And what's really cool is you can actually start to test things, you know, against each other. Maybe this email, you know, let's swap this for a different email and see the result. You know, how many parents got from this stage to the next, or how many parents, ended up booking a tour by themselves without you having to call and you know, remind them or something. You know what I mean? So the idea is these are strategies that are employed by the most sophisticated marketing agencies and marketing companies out there, and you know, much like you know, like sometimes these things can be used in kind of a sleazy way, but the point here is that, you know, you're using these things to help the right parents get their children to the right program for them, and obviously this is all positive, and it does result ultimately in you not just onboarding more enrollment, but also the right enrollment. So if you can increase your retention rate, then, you know, it's a heck of a lot easier to manage your school. So you can start to invest less. The whole point of this and any marketing strategy is that wherever you start off with, whatever metrics or costs you have, they should continually go down and down. The better your marketing strategy is, and especially at the middle of the funnel in this point when they've engaged you and you're working them through the admissions process, this is where you can have the most impact and really set yourself up to fill your school up with more kids with a fraction of the time and the expense. It should just keep getting cheaper and cheaper. One
more point before you move on. If you're in a market area where there are a number of Montessori schools that are competing for finite amount of enrollment, and perhaps many of you are, you may be in some areas where there isn't a lot of Montessori competition, but there may be other schools that are competing, preschools, childcare centers. From Montessori school to Montessori school, as parents check in and investigate, they may hear sort of the same pitch about the Montessori, lifelong learning, whole child development, et cetera, et cetera. What will push some parents or motivate some parents to check into your school to go and take a tour? It's the feeling. It's the responsiveness. It's that sense of intimacy. It's that sense of like, wow, these people are sort of interacting with me and checking in with me and sharing some additional information. So the cultural or atmospheric feeling will override the fact that they have heard the same thing from other competitors. That will be the thing that causes them to come and take a tour because it felt different than just the information model of the other schools. And that's something that Hubbly in an automated way can help you provide.
And I want to actually make another point on that, because that's very true. And a system like this allows you to think about that and set it up, and you work on those emails, and you don't have to like think about them at the time. So you can be really strategic, and you can be, when you have the time and you set things up, it'll generally have a better result. Here's another thing that those prospective parents will respond to differently. If you have a system like this, you are going to appear like a really well run organization. And at this stage, trust is so crucial. And we're talking about people that have not yet come in necessarily and met your staff, or, fallen in love with you as a director because you're just so passionate, and that's usually the case. Like, there's certainly a much more passionate vibe when you go to a Montessori school than you do a public school.
Well, Joe, it's not only passionate, but look at the demographics of the people that are selecting Montessori. They're usually better educated, often higher socioeconomic, successful business people. So if we present our schools not so much as sort of, loosey-goosey, kind of, I won't use the term hippie, I live in California, but, some Montessori schools, especially the preschools, they still present themselves as kind of like, we're sort of soft, loving people, which is really lovely. But to professional people, we need to present ourselves as a really organized business and an organized customer service sort of responsive system. So I think what Jonah was saying here, if I'm tracking him, is that given the demographics of many of the educated prospective families that you serve or want to serve, it's like getting something that looks more professional and organized and systematic and consistent actually again gives them a feeling of like, wow, these people really run this like a business, and they also feel good, and they're giving me the information that I need. That again gives you the sort of leg up to have them take a tour.
Essentially, it allows like an owner-operator Montessori school with 30 kids that, to appear like you've got a whole marketing team.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is only a good thing, because people will be like, wow, she is like this, let's say she or he, what a passionate, amazing educator. And holy cow, she's also got the other side of the brain happening. She's got her, everything's organized, and this is the place I want my kid. I want my child. If I had to lean one.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jonah.
I was going to say, if I had to lean one way or the other, I would go with the more passionate and less organized, right? But if I'm looking at an option that's got the passion there and the investment in the child and the investment in the parents and the experience as a customer and as somebody that's paying thousands of dollars, like I would go for the best of both worlds. And there's no reason why today that can't happen. But in traditionally in the past, to do this would take having like one or two full-time staff people, but
Well,
that's not necessary.
also think of the subliminal message, Jono, that if a parent goes through, their prospective parent goes through the kind of system that you're talking about of sort of the drip of communications, not only is the subliminal message that these people are more responsive and they're more organized than the competition than the other schools, but maybe that also plays out in the classroom. If the interaction with the adults who are communicating about their school is responsive and warm and very organized, maybe the classrooms run that way. So there's an underlying cultural message here also.
Yeah, and that's why originally when I said trust, it's about building that trust. That's just perceived under the surface.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, these guys are just well. Okay, so I want to ask everyone, what do you think about all this stuff? Is this all new to you? Is this stuff you've been wanting to do and haven't been able to get there? And I'm not exactly sure why you showed up here today, but I can probably guess some things. You probably want to be able to keep your school enrolled to capacity with a waiting list, that's always staying at a consistent size. I'm sure everybody agrees that's a good situation. And you probably want to have enough inquiries coming in month after month so that you're not afraid to turn away parents that aren't a good fit for a Montessori school. And you want to free up your time from the boring and repetitive kind of remedial activities like sorting through sheets of paper, so you can spend more time on the higher value and enjoyable tasks like being in the classroom and educating kids and interviewing new excited families. Like that's the fun stuff, right? And you know that you're capable of doing more of that, and you just need to get some of these roadblocks out of your way.
Jono, I know of no head of school, including myself when I was a head of school, that gets into the classroom and observes teachers, gives teachers feedback, talks to parents. There's hardly enough time to do that. And so for me, when I had been a head of school, had I had some kind of an automated system to do this kind of communications and enrollment recruitment, it would have freed me up to actually help improve my program, to spend more time with children, teachers, and parents. So that's what I was talking about, the higher value tasks that most of us heads of schools would love to have more time to do.
Yeah, and you want to give your prospective parents a communication experience that's engaging and informative and makes them look forward to enrolling their children in your school. And we've been talking, that's what we just spent a lot of time talking about. So you can definitely do this, and you've shown up here today and you've made it a priority. Hopefully you've taken some notes, and I hope maybe you're even excited about taking on some of this stuff. And I want you to know that a real marketing strategy can change your school and it can change your life. But you've got to know exactly what to do, right, at your school, because every school is a little different and everyone's got little different processes and needs, and every school is different. And, you have to know, like, what's the skill level of your staff? Do you have somebody that can whip this stuff up? Maybe not. What are the communication expectations of your parents? As John was mentioning, the demographics of your parents. What's gonna make them feel more trusting? And what tools do you already know and use? Can those be used more effectively? And so that's where we come in. So you can take the information that we've talked about today. It's kind of high level, and you can try to figure out how to make some changes, right, on your own. And everybody here, I'm sure, is very smart and capable. Most people in your shoes are pretty busy, though, and it's tough to carve out the time to figure all this stuff out. So the obvious question is, how can you quickly and easily figure this stuff out for your school. So this is something I'm really excited to talk about because we're launching this new pilot program, and we're offering a small group of schools because it's a pilot, and and before I talk about this, I just want to get your permission. So do I have your permission to take a few minutes and tell you about this, how this program works? And I actually, guys, I can't even see the chat box because I'm in presentation mode. But somebody let me know if anybody wants to hear about this, because I don't want to waste blow hot air if nobody wants to hear about it.
We have some yeses and sures, Jono.
Okay, great. So I'm glad to hear. So the Hubly, this is a done-for-you enrollment marketing service, and it really is the most efficient way to grow your enrollment and reduce the administrative workload. So one of the things we do is we're going to fully manage Facebook ads for you, and those are going to drive prospects to your enrollment funnel, like the one I showed you before. And so month over month, we'll be optimizing that and making sure that your ads perform better and better for less and less expense. It comes from working on it consistently. You can't just let an ad go. You have to test it. So we create 4 different ads and we test them against each other, and we keep on testing to essentially whittle down how much you're spending on a per inquiry basis. And then we're also going to create landing pages for you. These are custom designed landing pages where we're going to make sure, so those landing pages are also going to be optimized for search engines, so that when people go searching for the type of school that you are, they're going to find you online through search as well. So so we're going to actually perform search engine marketing on your site. And then you're also going to, that whole funnel will be, we're going to create that whole automated enrollment funnel for you. So that's from taking your existing enrollment process, which is usually done by paper, converting it into a digital process that matches your entire admissions process, but also automates about 95% of it. And then parents, when they enter into that process, so we give you this Hubly dashboard, and it'll keep bringing parents back, and when they log in, they'll see what they need to fill out. And they'll even see what, so they'll see what the process is for completing the enrollment process. And this is all sort of in the front end of the experience for the parents. They can also see the checklist. And then in the back end, that's where all the sort of the technology is doing the automation. And depending on what stage they're at or what actions they take, it kicks off those other automated steps.
Hey, Jono.
Yeah.
Go back to that other slide for a minute. Sarah had a question earlier. I think it was in the marketing flow, or the recruitment and inquiry flow. Can this be blown up a little bit? It's kind of hard to see. It's awfully small. Can that be enlarged, that page?
Actually, no, it can't. I can't actually make it any bigger right now, unfortunately.
All right, that's fine.
Sorry, I missed the questions because I'm not seeing the screen.
There were a lot of questions, Jonah. Just Sarah was wondering in that flow chart of the recruitment process. I think it was that slide. Whether,
so you know what, we'll take some time to answer questions just at the end in a minute or two. And I'm sorry, I meant to let you guys know that we'll stick around for questions. So parents can see where they are. And then we also, the Hubly platform has an automated booking schedule, which is really great for tours. And, so Hubly, the system will drive parents to book and schedule tours or open houses. And then it sends out automated reminders and, creates schedules for whatever staff person needs to obviously show up. And so it just, again, it takes, yeah.
Am I also correct in assuming that the notification of tours will also automatically go to the teachers So the Montessori teacher is going, whoa, I didn't know we were going to have adults in the classroom today. So it can be a multiple notification system in addition to the classroom teacher, I assume.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's actually, yeah, no, that's a great point, and it can certainly do that, and I think that's something I'll suggest to our customers. Actually, we never even thought about that, but there's no reason why it couldn't do that. And then much like the same kind of funnel, this is just that same example. We'll build that automated admissions process for you. So we're actually managing this. This is completely done for you. You don't have to learn how to build these things. We completely set it up. We run it. We test it. And we make sure that that it's representing you. Obviously, we're not going to write the emails for you, but we can give you some templates that you can start from, and then you make them their own. But we build these custom for everybody because every school is a little different and has slightly different processes. And then also we do real-time reporting with how the different stages of your admissions process is going. And you can dig into these to see what parents are at what stage. So you're never losing track of anything. So not only does the system send you your staff reminders when they need to do something, like, hey, this parent came in for a tour and hasn't yet filled out the admissions form, please call them. Like, the system can identify if they haven't filled it out yet and send the right staff member a task to call that person, like as an example, right? So nobody will miss anything, but if you ever just want to go in and get the snapshot, where is everybody at? That's also there for you as well, all inside your Hubly dashboard. And I also, here's that bonus that I was offering at the beginning. I just want to basically let you know that we've got this great ebook. So if you sign up in the next 15 minutes, actually, we'll actually send you this free ebook as well, just as a a thank you for taking the time to learn more about this pilot program. And I just want to make it clear that we've been providing these services to our customers for years, but in a more a la carte basis. These are tested and true strategies, and we're experts in providing them. The only reason this is called a pilot program is that it's limited because we're now packaging these services up as a complete end-to-end solution. And the reason we're calling it a pilot and capping it, to a limited number is because we need to obviously ensure top-tier support service while we onboard new team members internally to then roll out, the growth of this service that we're offering. So we do have to keep it limited to make sure that we can, keep within our capacity to deliver the top-tier customer support. So, it's really important. Obviously, we have many existing customers that we also can't take away from. So we are quite limited to how many we can. And right now, we can only accept 8 more schools. We actually have. Just this week, a number of schools have signed up, and we don't expect those spots to be around after tomorrow. Maybe into the middle of next week. Depends. Everyone takes a little bit of time to make a decision, but essentially, I'd just love you to go to that link, hubly.com/done-for-you-marketing. And learn a little more about, sign up for a demonstration, or you can email me directly, jono@hubly.com, and we can set up a time to talk. If you want to learn more about this done-for-you, enrollment marketing service, it's, essentially, going to be your quickest way to develop a consistent flow of new inquiries and run an automated admissions process that helps you engage parents the right way, so you're more easily enrolling the best families for your school.
Jono?
And yes.
Yeah, I just want to imagine everybody, or imagine most of the people who are watching and listening are aware that this is an other service stream for Hubly. Most of you are probably aware that Hubly has an entire service stream of internal communications and notifications and conference scheduling for parents and teachers and administrators. And this is another stream. So if you're not aware of all the internal communication features of and coordination features of Hubly, that's a whole other continent, as we say in Montessori.
Jono, we have a few questions as well.
Okay, great.
Okay, first question is, does this pilot program include tracking for financial aspects of applying and enrolling?
Yes,
okay.
It does.
Next question is, how long does it take a school to go through this onboarding process?
I don't think we're hearing the response, or we didn't hear the question.
We didn't hear the question.
Well, you didn't repeat the question, so we just heard you say it does.
You can't hear me?
You're looking at something from the chat?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Pat was, I guess, Pat. So John, you're not hearing Pat ask those questions?
No.
Oh, that's interesting.
No.
Can anybody else hear me?
Let's see here.
I'm
going to. Yeah,
Jonah, I'm going to sign off. I've got to scoot to another meeting. Again, thanks for the opportunity, and thank all the rest of you for all the work you do in your schools on behalf of the families and children you serve. See you next time.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Jonah.
So yeah, Pat, everyone can hear you. Okay, great. So
Okay,
the
good.
answer. So what's the next question?
The next question is, let's see, how long does it take a school to go through this onboarding process?
Yeah, so that's pretty quick actually, because we kind of do everything for you. It shouldn't be a matter of just a couple of sessions, a couple of half-hour sessions, and it's a pretty simple process because again we're doing all the work. You know, it doesn't require much training or anything like that. So it's a very simple onboarding process in comparison to our regular platform, which is a much longer onboarding process.
Okay, our next question is, how many schools are currently using Hubly?
Currently using Hubly is about 110 schools.
Okay, and we do have somebody who would like to sign up. So how do we do that?
Well, so what you want to do is you want to go to hubly.com/done-for-you-marketing. It's that link that you see on the screen. You guys are seeing that on the screen, right? Probably also seeing that my battery's about to die on my Mac.
We're seeing both.
Yeah. So if you go to that link, that gives you a big button to click on, and that'll allow you to book a meeting. So we'll do like an information session on how this all works, and yeah, please do sign up.
And that's all the questions we have for right now.
Okay, great. I'm also going to send you guys an email with some with a link to this sign up page for a consultation on the enrollment marketing pilot program. I do want you to know that if you're interested in this, you'd want to make sure that you can make a decision fairly quickly. Because the nature of these marketing services that we're describing, being that they do require a lot of dedicated time from our team, and we're offering them at a fraction of the cost they would generally be otherwise. We have a limited capacity of how many schools we can accept. So we're capping this at 10 schools. We only have 8 spots left so far. And we've had about 50 schools this week sign up for these consultations. So we really don't expect there to be spots for too much longer. Certainly not. I would be surprised if there's any room past the middle of next week. Although, sometimes people sign up for things and then decide to drop out. So, it's worth it to check in. But you kind of have to be ready to make a decision fairly quickly. Are there any other questions from the folks on any of the topics that we covered?
We do have a question wondering if Hubly Does Hubley have a parent education webinars all set to use?
Parent education webinars. Well, the parent so I'm not exactly sure what that means. Could you qualify a little bit, be a little bit more specific? When you say parent education webinar, is that for the school to educate their parents on Montessori topics, or is that to educate parents on how to use the Hubley system?
Okay, clarification here is if we sign up, is there content ready to use for parents at our school, Montessori topics?
No, but we do have a partnership with the Montessori Foundation, Sarah, that where we could, Tim Selden and I work together quite a lot, and we could basically, it's something we've been discussing, but packaging up parent education emails and content to deliver through the system. And I would certainly be, this is again, we're setting all this stuff up custom for every school. So, we don't have it ready, but we would be willing to work with you to develop that in your system. And we've already, like I said, we've already got partnerships with the Montessori Foundation, who has all of that content ready to go. So it would be a pretty easy thing to accomplish. And it's a great idea as well, actually, Sarah. Thank you. Was there a question earlier from Sarah about something that John brought up? I didn't catch it. Does the pilot program include tracking for, oh, that was already asked. Mm-hmm. And what was another one? Oh, Sarah, so you're mentioning that this is the same system. Can I see this chart larger? I cannot read. So Sarah, so I apologize that you weren't able to read the different steps in that process of the admissions workflow. Ultimately, it's not that relevant, like what the word said. It's essentially, we were just trying to communicate that, that workflow is an example, just to show there's different stages, and we build them custom for everybody. So what that example showed isn't really that important. The important point there was that you can automate your process. Okay, so I hope everybody is gonna join us for a consultation. If you have any need of working on the different stages of your enrollment process, we'd be happy to show you how we can help you. And if you can get into this pilot program cohort, then you've got a great opportunity to get something that would otherwise cost quite a lot of money if you were to work with a traditional marketing agency, which is generally what this would take. We're going to be we're going to be setting this according to your budget, and no matter what, it will be a fraction of what a marketing agency would charge. So we're going to wrap it up for today, and I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us. We will let you know when we run our next webinar. We'll be doing these a lot with Jonathan on different topics, and bid you guys adieu. Have a wonderful day.